Worthless and traitorous.
Peter Pettigrew was the rat of the group. To his best friend, he was known as Wormtail, and to the Weasley family, he was known as Scabbers. Wormtail is a friend who ultimately betrayed his best friends.
Why an innocent man would want to spend 12 years as a rat.
I have previously talked about villains on this channel, Umbridge being the worst. But in the Harry Potter verse, there are plenty of others. Today, we will be discussing Wormtail as a Marauder and a traitor. As an original member of the Four, the Marauders, as they roam the school in full moons, Wormtail does deserve his spot after all, no matter how he is disliked, as he is the cause of many tragedies throughout the series. Wormtail wasn't very liked by his other best friends. James only liked how Wormtail admired him, while Sirius saw him for who he was. However, Wormtail was friends with Lupin first, who had very few friends, convinced James and Sirius to give him a chance. That's how Wormtail ended up being part of the group. But alas, the story needed to begin somewhere, as we know it, and if Wormtail didn't weasel his way to Voldemort to rat out the Potters, we wouldn't have a Harry Potter story to begin with. But first, let's explore how this happened.
Pettigrew, that fat little boy who was always tagging around after them at Hogwarts?
Peter Pettigrew was a hat stall. It took the sorting hat more than 5 minutes to choose a house for him, hesitating between Slytherin and Gryffindor. Now we can say the hat was wrong. Gryffindor's value traits are daring, nerve, chivalry, courage, bravery, and determination. Wormtail was determined not to be caught by his friends, and his friends turned enemies once he betrayed them. After all, it definitely took determination to spend 12 years as a rat. He also was determined to align himself with the most powerful. Wormtail loved having friends like James, Sirius, and Remus.
Hero-worshipped Black and Potter, never quite in their league talent-wise.
Popular and powerful friends. With the group's help, he was able to become an animagus. But by the time they graduated from Hogwarts, with Voldemort on the rise, Wormtail let himself be seduced by all that raw power that Voldemort was exuding. At the height of Voldemort's power, Wormtail was made to be the secret keeper of the Potters using the Fidelius charm, after it was known that Voldemort was after the Potters. And as the secret keeper, only if he was willing to voluntarily give the information will it be known. And that is exactly what Wormtail did. For once, he would be useful. He wasn't brave, he wasn't courageous, but he wanted to be seen and valued. What better way to have Voldemort's lifelong gratitude than to deliver to him the Potters? And so he did, convinced that Voldemort's side would be winning. He sold one of his best friends, condemning him, his wife, and their 1-year-old son to certain death. However, Wormtail did not entertain the idea that his master, the Dark Lord, would fall that night. He did not think that Baby Potter would break Voldemort's power. And when that happened, as the rat that he was, running from foes and friends, he set one more of his best friends to take the fall for him. Wormtail murdered 12 innocent muggles with one single curse and set up his own murder, leaving a finger behind, but not before ensuring he screamed for all to hear that Sirius was the one who betrayed them and caused Lily and James to die. After transfiguring himself to his rat form, he then spent 12 years living as Scabbers. Wormtail find a wizard family, as we know, the Weasleys, to hide himself, not too far, in case he hears whispers of Voldemort ascent back to power. So Wormtail, known as Scabbers, began his life as a rat, first as Percy's rat, then as runs. And lucky for us and unlucky for him, it was that Ron became best friends with Harry Potter. Wormtail was not brave enough to act on his own. For 2 years, he was effectively the closest any true Voldemort supporter had ever dreamed to be to take out Harry. He was sleeping in the same dormitory as Harry. And even when he was away from Dumbledore, when Harry spent his first summer at the Burrow in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secret. But unfortunately for him, right before Harry started his 3rd year, Arthur Weasley won the annual Daily Prophet Grand Prize Galleon draw, and the family took a trip to Egypt, where a picture of them was taken, a picture in which Scabbers, as Wormtail, was in. And further lack of fortune befalls Wormtail. It just happens that in his usual visit to Azkaban, Cornelius Fudge gives his Daily Prophet to no other than Sirius Black, the Daily Prophet with said pictures. This is the beginning of one of Wormtail's problem. This and Crookshanks being the second. Because from the moment Sirius escaped, Wormtail knew it was a matter of time for him. He would have known that Sirius was after him, because Mr. Weasley, working in the ministry, knew that Sirius was saying in his sleep, he's at Hogwarts. This could only mean him, of course, not Harry. He knew Sirius would have no reason to want to harm Harry. And to make Wormtail's issue more difficult, Crookshanks recognized him to be something different than a rat. And after meeting Sirius as Padfoot and letting him know of this weird rat, he joined Sirius and made several attempts to catch Scabbers. Scabbers, as the walls were closing in, was losing weight and had patches of fur falling. Wormtail, being a one-trick pony, does the same thing he had done before, but this time, instead of framing his best friend, he frames Crookshanks. This put Ron and Hermione's friendship at risk, but Wormtail was no stranger to putting friendship at odds, having done so to his own best friends. Despite his very best efforts, fortunately for us, Wormtail was found hidden in a milk bottle in Hagrid's cupboard by Hermione. Alas, it was a distressed and frantic Wormtail, still known as Scabbers at this point, that walked back to the school. And despite his temporary escape, he was caught by Ron before Ron himself got dragged off by Sirius inside the Whomping Willow in the tunnel below to the Shrieking Shack. There, all came to light, and the Marauders reunited once more, Harry as a stand-in for his father James. Scabbard was discovered to be Wormtail, none other than Peter Pettigrew himself. Things almost took a turn when Snape showed up too early to see that Wormtail was in fact alive and blinded by his rage and his need to get his revenge. There, Wormtail begged his old friend, Remus and Sirius.
Sirius, it's me, it's Peter, your friend. You wouldn't. Remus!
To forgive him and to understand his weakness. And he begged Harry to have mercy.
Harry, you look just like your father, just like him.
And mercy he found from Harry, who agreed that he would be delivered to the Dementors, so Sirius' name could be cleared. But as this was a full moon, Lupin's furry little problem gave Wormtail just the time he needed to escape. Discovered and left with nowhere else to run, Wormtail sought his old master's protection in Albania. As the story must go on, Wormtail's escaping created a domino effect that would lead to the Dark Lord rising again. During his travel to Voldemort, Wormtail ran into Berta Jorkins, and since people dead for 12 years don't make a habit of walking around unless they are ghosts, poltergeists, or the likes, and since he was as solid as she was, this would need explaining, and by a mix of luck for Wormtail and dumb curiosity for Bertha, Wormtail convinced her to to follow him. And over the next year, Wormtail was used as a servant, doing the Dark Lord's bidding, not trusted enough to take on the Sirius plan, but useful enough to nurse his master, milk Nagini, and babysit Barty Crouch Sr. And on the night Voldemort's return, Wormtail murdering Cedric Diggory on Voldemort's order and concocting the potion to bring his master back, using the bone of the father, the flesh of the servant, and blood of the enemy. In return, he gets a silver metal hand as a gift from Voldemort.
If you made a better rat than a human, it's not much to boast about, Peter.
In the end, Wormtail was not loyal. He wasn't brave. He was power-hungry, but too weak to ever seek it himself.
You always liked big friends who'd look after you, didn't you? It used to be us, me and Remus and James.
Preferring to align himself with powerful friends and allies, to always be protected, never put at risk, and with Voldemort's back and Voldemort's Death Eater's back, Wormtail continued to do the servant beatings. The low-risk job, not respected nor valued. He continued to serve the other Death Eaters, first Snape, then Lucius, to guard prisoners. And that is how he meets his end, in a silent struggle with Harry and Ron in the cellar in Malfoy's manor. While choking Harry, Harry reminds him that he owed him his life.
You're going to kill me? After I saved your life? You owe me, Wormtail!
And the second of hesitation was all it took. He must have forgotten Lord Voldemort's words.
May your loyalty never waver again, Wormtail.
Untrustworthy and disloyal, the man who sold James, one of his best friends, after spending 7 years in school with him, setting up one of his other best friends to take the fall and caused them to spend 12 years in Azkaban. The man himself, who spent 12 years as a rat because he was too afraid to face either side of his betrayal, died from his own silver metal hand crushing his throat. Wormtail lived and died as a coward. Throughout his life, he sought protection from those more powerful than him, and there he laid forgotten. His body was left in a cold cellar. Wormtail, who caused the death of James Potter and his wife, murdered 12 innocent muggles when faced with Sirius, who continued to run his whole life, ironically condemning himself to 12 years as a rat. Wormtail was the third Marauder to die, leaving behind emptiness, no legacy to speak of him, no one to miss him, as he lived an empty life, despised and looked down upon by friends and foes. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more, and don't forget to like this video to help others find it.